Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast, a show that provides insight and tools to build the life and homestead of your dreams. Today is Thursday, January 6th. This is episode number 258 of the show. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. Today, after reading the devotionals like I normally do in the mornings as part of my routine, I again decided to select a reading from the book The Rudder of the Day, which inspires us to think about how we start our day. Because the first 60 minutes of each day will set the stage for what the day will hold. Be very careful how you start your day. In those first few minutes, you are planting the seeds for your effectiveness, influence, health, and spiritual vitality for that day. All right, so you get the point. This is the golden hour. And for me, I've been up and I've gone past that golden hour, but I am still at a point where I'm mindful of how I began my day. So if you are beginning your day with this show, or even if this is later on in the day, keep all that in mind, and hopefully this can contribute to a changed perspective. So today we're going to read about beating the job loss blues. And we can't control our circumstances, but we can control our responses. Now, no matter how it happens, a job loss is painful. Maybe you were caught up in the corporate downsizing and it's nothing personal. Or maybe it was personal. Your boss was an insensitive jerk who didn't recognize your talent. Either way, it's easy to start questioning your self-worth at such a time. You may wonder if you'll end up homeless, never to contribute in a meaningful way to civilization again. In 30 days, your savings will be depleted. Are your old office workers laughing behind your back? Are your neighbors looking at the loser when they see you at home on a weekday? Well, don't get caught up in the negatives. This will only sabotage your immediate future. Here are some tips for moving forward. Release your anger. It's okay to be angry at the unfairness of the boss, the company, or the world. But don't stay there. While you may have been treated unfairly, sharing that will only make potential new employers uneasy and prevent them from wanting you on their team. Evaluate your life. Take advantage of these transitions to take a fresh look at your life. What is unique about you? How important is time flexibility? What income do you want? See this as a time to move up and forward, not down. Network constantly. Start each day with an action plan. Get out there and meet people. Talk to anyone you can who might offer suggestions on how to improve your job search. Don't be embarrassed to let people know you are looking for work. You are selling a product, and that product is you. Don't make excuses. You are not too old, too short, or missing a degree. Excuses tend to become self-fulfilling after a while, and mentally you can become your own worst enemy in the job search process. Stay balanced. Our success tends to spiral up or down together. Career success leads to financial success, more social and family success, etc. The opposite is also true. Don't allow a job loss to turn you into a couch potato. Stay sharp physically and mentally. Keep developing your important relationships. And for more information on how to handle a job loss or change, you can read more at www.48days.ibelieve.com, and I will link to that in the show notes. Now, as we approach the apron of the driveway and about to hit the road, we'll take one quote from the Bible before we ask ourselves the question that provides direction for today. And today we are going to read from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Direction for today. What is one thing you can do in each of these 5 areas today? So that's what I'll talk about as I start the drive. What am I doing? And what am I thinking about? And what can I do? But what am I doing to release my anger? What am I doing to evaluate my life? What am I doing to network? What am I doing to ensure that I don't make excuses? And what am I doing to stay balanced? Well, let's talk about releasing anger, all right? What do I do to release anger? All right. So in the past, I'll see if I can link to this too, just to make it easy. I did an episode on something called Fists of Anger. And this was one of the early episodes. It was an audience feedback episode. And it was something that Steph shared with us. And out in San Diego, and shout out to Steph. And that was, like I said, I'll link to that in the show notes. But I'd like to think what I'm doing now, those were more of coping mechanisms, if you will, I'd like to say. And those are great tools to learn. Recently, I've talked about tapping, which emotional freedom technique tapping, EFT. And that is one way to, manage, cope with the actual things that we're experiencing with stress, including but not limited to anger. And all of this, what I'll get to in a little bit, especially the way to achieve balance in life, is a way to, I was going to say prevent the anger, but I have found that everything I'm doing with functional medicine has allowed me to really refine what I have been doing to release my anger and basically do so more effectively. And that, my friends, is priceless. So what else? What am I doing to evaluate my life? I've talked about this in the past. I've done some shows on this in the past. But the big thing that I'm doing is the self-authoring. And there are several ways to structure that program. And I am choosing to write my autobiography first. And speaking of which, it's Thursday, and I've yet to spend time writing on that, and I need to get cranking on that because that's one of my goals this week. I also need to make a point of reviewing those more frequently. How did it become Thursday already? I don't know. But yeah, writing. but writing with specific purpose. And in this case, it's a structured program that allows you to write. It's a one-time purchase, and that's nice. And there are other writing programs, like one I bought as a gift for my parents called Storyworth, and that is a kind of a cool program because it will basically format what you write into a book, a bound copy book. Now you're going to pay more for this service, of course, but if you want a deliverable easily, that is a cool option. Storyworth. I will link to it in the show notes. Now, thirdly, what are we doing about networking? Network constantly. I can tell you what I'm doing, and it's not as much as it used to be. When I first got back here, I was new. I was networking constantly. I was still active in some different professional groups. That's one way to network constantly, just professional peer groups. There's also local networking through volunteer communities like the Rotary Club or your Kiwanis or a local Odd Fellows Lodge like I'm a member of and participate in. There's also Big Brothers and Big Sisters. That's not necessarily a networking opportunity, but involvement with your church. There's a number of different ways to be involved through meetup groups. That's another good one. And I'm sure that through other social media, there are a number of ways to effectively network locally, and not to mention online, which is an abundance of everything, including locally, but certainly not limited to that. So there are some ideas. Now, as far as not making excuses, that's tough because it's easy to make excuses, like we read, like they're too old, or we're too short, or we don't have a degree, or we don't have the experience to start a business, or there's too many people doing it already and they're doing it better than me, or I just don't have the time, because of my current obligations or whatever. You get the point. I'm guilty of it too. And what that is a pattern of, it's a pattern of behavior. And like we read, these are self-fulfilling prophecies. And we do become our own worst enemy. And because this is a pattern of behavior, it is something that can be changed. But oftentimes, unless we are extremely conscious, diligent, and mindful of it, we are going to be slow to make change. And I believe that you can expect, if you can identify the amount of time in years, months, or weeks, I guess, but let's talk years. The amount of time that you've actively engaged in that pattern, you can expect, damn near that same amount of time to repattern if you're just not really actively doing much about it. So the more mindful you are and the more action you take, the more you accelerate that process of making change and getting out of that habit of making excuses. Because the reality is, we can call them excuses, but we all make choices. We choose to not do all the things we make excuses for. The sooner we get a grip on that, the sooner we can move on and start accomplishing something in life. Understand that. We all make choices. There are no excuses. whether it's deliberate or indeliberate, you've made a choice to be exactly where you are right now, right here, today. And you know what? You can also make a choice to change that. You can make a choice to change that by releasing your anger, evaluating your life, networking, repatterning and not making excuses, and also staying balanced. But how do you do this, Rob? Right? This is something that I've been mindful of these concepts for well over a decade now, 15 years. But it's only been recently that I've felt comfortable and confident in talking about them and articulating them in such a way, largely because I'm, grifting off people who have been there and done that, like Dan Miller. But at the end of the day, when you read just about everything, everybody's grifting off everyone. For example, in this, ironically today, in this particular passage, there are no quotes attributed to other people except for that from the Bible, Psalm 23. Again, for reference, if you felt moved by that earlier. But this staying balanced, because success tends to spiral up or down together. Now, I was going somewhere with that and I lost my train of thought. But this, like I said, it's only recently that I've been able to articulate this because I'm grifting off content. And I was going to make an example in which I couldn't. But staying balanced and the mechanisms of how to do so, that is something that has I think my coworkers behind me driving like someone who's impatient. That's okay. Stay balanced, Rob. My involvement with the 48 Days community over the last year has better equipped me with, like I said, these tools and mechanisms to stay balanced. And one that I've talked about recently a lot is this 2022 goal setting workbook. And that has been a big part of finding and working through and understanding what is important in these 7 areas of my life: financial, physical, personal development, family, spiritual, social, and career. So there you have it, guys. I hope that was something of value to you. And if it was, it was indeed my coworker. I just don't understand. Patience, Rob. Patience. If you like what you hear on the show and you want to participate in a community with other like-minded people, you are welcome to join us over at t.me/allaroundgrowth. And like I said, check out show notes for links for everything that I talked about today. And again, if you like what you hear, I would just encourage you to join us on Telegram in the chat, t.me/allaroundgrowth, and spread the word on your social media of choice. You can find me operating on Float and Twitter and Minds to a certain extent. But the podcast is predominantly on Twitter, Facebook, and I am working on the website. I know I've been saying that for months, and I've been procrastinating, admittedly, so I'll own that. Anyways, I hope you have a great day today, guys. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.